again, self-love is not selfish. We're taught to be giving and self-sacrifices to be admired, but what we don't recognize is if you do all the things for everybody else without taking care of yourself, you're going to give out of a place of obligation, not love, and that's not good for anybody. I was really interested because of your overflowing buckets, because I teach a concept to my women called living in overflow. And I teach women that are wanting to create a life that they love and grow their business at the same time, that they need to put themselves first, because when they do and they keep their cups so full to the overflow of the saucer, then they can give in kind, loving, generous ways without depleting themselves. And so I was really drawn to your overflowing message.
Well, what I was seeing happen is these people, because we're natural givers. We find joy out of giving to others, right? We have that in us, and society tells us we should do that, like we should give, give, give. But what I have found is so many of us will give until we're empty, and then we're on burnout, and we're angry, and we're pissed, and we're bitter. Not you,
Yes.
but you understand. So,
Right. Yes.
but if we can just pause and have that self-control, which is what it is, it's self-control, right? That delayed gratification of just wait, just like you said, work on yourself, do that personal self growth, self care, self see, and it's not selfish. Have you found like
Yeah.
people think, oh, if they do that, they're selfish?
For a long time, my mantra has been self-love is not selfish. And I think it's partly of just how we're raised. We're taught to be giving and self-sacrifices to be admired. But what we don't recognize is all the things you just said about how if you do all the things for everybody else without taking care of yourself, you're going to give out of a place of obligation, not love. And that's not good for anybody.
That's not good for anybody. And then you run out. And if you'll just be patient, you'll get from the overflow. And then we can
Yeah.
actually give infinitely. Infinitely.
Yeah.
We have
Yes.
more.
That's why I say if you want to change the world, you have to start with you. And when you create a life you love and overflow, then your business will get better, your relationships will get better, your health could get better. Like everything gets better when you live out of overflow.
Well, Mother Teresa, she's like, hey, you want to change the world? Start in your house. So I see so
Mm-hmm.
often, like I hear this, a lot of folks, they want to point fingers at what other people are doing. Or they want to
Oh,
change the world by changing everything else. And I just remember Mother Teresa, she said, start in your house, go to your neighbors, like start, start there. Once,
yep, that's
once
so
your house
true.
is in order, you can overflow into the next house, overflow into the next house, and on we go.
I started my healing journey in 2015. I got out of an abusive marriage after having been married and divorced multiple times. And what I recognized was that I was dealing with self-hate, and that I kept putting myself in these bad situations because I didn't believe I was worth anything. And so I really believe it does start with self-worth, understanding that you are of value just because you are, not because of anything you do. And when you can accept that and build on that, then the world can be a beautiful place.
So I love this topic. You said you're worthy just because you are,
Yep.
right?
Hard stop in this
So,
sentence. Nothing
hard
else
stop.
needed.
Just because you are, and that's it. So what is that disconnect, do you think?
Mm,
And how do we overcome that disconnect in believing that we have to earn our worth versus we are worthy because we are, and everything else that we do is on top of we're already worth it. It's just
yeah.
because we don't, there's
Yeah.
nothing left
So
for us
I think
but
that
free.
it's part of how we're just taught and how we're raised, and I don't think it's anything intentional. Nobody's doing anything nefarious. But just imagine you have a little baby and you're feeding them food and they eat it, and what do? Yay! So they're rewarded for doing they walk to you for the first time. Yay! Right? And so we are rewarded for doing from the very beginning of our life. And so the way I teach the women to overcome that disconnect and that desire to have to do is to spot it when they think about it, when they think, oh, I'm not good enough because I didn't do this, or this, to catch that lie, because that's what it is. It's a lie.
Right.
And then replace it with the truth. And if I could do only one thing and had $0 to start over on a healing journey, what I would do is I would start with gratitude. Because when you focus on the things that you're grateful for, you can't live in gratitude and fear at the same time. You can't have gratitude and lack. That just isn't possible. And so when you focus on what you're grateful for and what's good, then you start to see more of that, and you start to realize, oh, these are the things I like, and this is the kind of life I want to create. And so when you catch the lie and replace it with gratitude and the truth, you're going to win.
So we hear that about starting with gratitude, but when you don't feel worthy, right? Yeah. There's a sense of guilt when you're feeling grateful.
There
right?
can be.
Oh, I'm grateful for this amazing house. So then when we start having that guilt, then that self-sabotage sets in, right? Like, what can we do to overcome that? Oh, I have a beautiful house, I have a beautiful home, I have a beautiful family, I have a beautiful husband, I have a beautiful this. And then you go out, and then society says you should feel guilty for having it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what level it is. I mean,
Sure. So what I would say in that situation is that if you're feeling guilty because you are worthy, you just need to dig deeper and understand where your worth really comes from. And it's not because of the house. It's not because of the husband. It's if you get to the core that, again, it goes all the way back to you are worthy just because you are, not because of anything else, and you build on that. And if you don't believe it at first, because I certainly didn't, I was dealing with self-hate and kept putting myself in toxic situations. And I will tell you that what you said, that sometimes you feel guilty for the gratitude, but when you can find gratitude in the chaos, in the worst situation possible, it's a magical thing. I can't explain why it works, but it does. And I'll give you a very real example. And this is when it clicked for me that gratitude was the thing that would help me understand. I mentioned I got out of an abusive marriage in 2015, and the lawyer knew that it was an abusive situation, and he said, when you sign the divorce paper, don't put your address on there, and after he signs it, I'll fill in your address, so he won't see where you're moving, because it was a serious situation. About 6 weeks after I moved, I get a text from my ex-husband saying, I know where you're at. And my lawyer had sent him a complete copy of the divorce papers. So he had the address. And my lawyer's like, well, he could have found them on his own. I'm like, yeah, he wouldn't have known he could have done that. And so, anyway, I ended up having to move. I told my dad that I got that text, and his response to me was, do you have a gun? My dad's a pastor. And so that's the level of severity. And so in that moment, I was scared. I was afraid. I did not know what to do. And I ended up, because of the situation, I ended up having to move again. But I ended up getting to move to what I call my happy place. I had gone there many times before. It's actually, since you're in the DFW area, it's in Lake Carolyn, right off in Las Colinas. There's a beautiful little lake there, and I had gone to the hotel in that area many times just because it was truly beautiful. Well, the job I got, a guy lived in an apartment complex right next to that on the lake, and because I got that text message, I had to move, and I told this guy Michael, I'm like, I gotta move, and I found out I could actually afford to live in my happy place at that apartment, and I got to move. And so I could have stayed
It,
stuck in the anger. I could have stayed stuck in the anger and the sadness and then, oh my gosh, or I could focus on, I get to live in my happy place. And when I
you
did
saw the
that,
opportunity. I love that.
yes. And so there's a direct correlation of worth and gratitude. And I don't know the science behind it, but I truly believe that when you start to focus on all the good things and you start to appreciate them and you start to understand that you are worthy just because you are, not because of any of that stuff, it just weaves in together really well. And the second thing would be that if you're still not feeling worthy and you're grateful and you're still not worthy, I would start to write down, well, there's two things I would do. I would start to write down the smallest, tiniest little thing that you could be thankful for about you. And like, when I started to say that, I was thinking, I'm really thankful for my eyelashes. And I don't know why, but that's the first thing that came to. I'm really thankful. That's like the smallest thing,
Because there's
right?
people that don't have eyelashes. If you ever try to put on, because especially as you age, your eyelashes kind of thin, along with everything else that is.
Yes, yes. And then this second thing that I would do, and maybe even this would be the first thing instead of the thankful, but they're tied together, is I teach my women that when you go to the bathroom and you're in there and you're doing your hair, your makeup, whatever, you're washing your hands, I want you to be aware that when you go in there, how often you actually don't even look at yourself in the eyes. You're in there, you're in front of a mirror, you don't even look at yourself. But instead of ignoring that, to spend just a moment looking at yourself in the mirror and say one good thing to yourself. Talk to yourself the way you would somebody you love. And it just starts to shift everything.
You start to reprogram.
Yes.
Are you familiar with Mel Robbins' High Five Challenge?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. And I love that is, it's the first thing in the morning. So share with everybody what this challenge is.
Well, I haven't done it in a while, but I
know
know that when you first start, you're supposed to give yourself a high five for all the things you're doing right and all the good, and your focus is basically a similar thing of what I'm saying. Start with gratitude, say something good, understand your worth, and it's a beautiful thing. Yeah.
Well, what I love about it is because you mentioned eye contact in the mirror. And that's what she says. She's like, first thing in the morning when you wake up, right, and you're in the bathroom, brushing your teeth, whatever, you look at yourself, right? You look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, say something great, and you just high five yourself in the mirror, no matter how cheesy and awkward it feels, right?
Yeah, it's so
And
true.
start
It's so
that
good.
day, right? So I love that you reminded me of that, because I was like, that is just that action right there, looking at yourself in eye to eye. Because how often I think people a lot of times will go throughout the day and not actually make eye contact with another
Oh,
human.
yeah.
So we have this
Or
beautiful
with
technology,
themselves.
or with themselves. So we have this amazing thing called a mirror. We can at least make eye contact with ourselves. It's like it just empowers us, gives the control back to us. It's not an outward anything. And I hear this because
Yeah.
you hear some people who are incredibly successful who lose it all, right? And they turn right around and they get it all back. They're worth it.
Yeah.
Like, they don't sit in it forever because they know it's not about the stuff. They know it was inside of them all the time.
Yeah, for sure. Totally. Yeah, and so I know that a lot of women, because we are givers and we are people pleasers, just inherently, I would like just to use this moment to remind everyone listening that you are a people too. People pleasing isn't necessarily a bad thing as long as you start with yourself, and then you can like we were talking about earlier, you can then give.
Yeah.
And infinitely. I like you said infinitely, and I'm going to use that infinitely. Yeah.
Oh, as long as you're giving from your overflow, right?
Yes,
It
yes.
always
That's why it starts with you. Starts with you.
yeah.
It's got to start
And
with
what's so
you.
interesting about this is that this is biblical. And it doesn't matter which religion you go to or philosophy you go to. It's a this is one of those concepts that is truly consistent, right?
Yes.
This is just how the universe responds. It's a higher
Yeah.
power, something greater than us. It's just it is because it is. It's just the way it is. It's not something to be debated, discussed.
Yeah.
It's it
And yet
just
it is. And let me, if it's okay, I've got a story about this. You know, I teach self love, and my mom. She has moved now, but she was in Abilene, Texas, and so I was at her place, and she'd been going to this church, and I wanted to go with her. And I have a cup, like a tumbler, sort of like a Yeti, but it's not, and it says, self love is not selfish on it. And I usually take it everywhere with me just for water. And I did not take it into church that day because it was church. And the pastor was actually teaching on self love. And what he was teaching, there's two sides. There's a good side and a bad side for just about everything. And self love can be toxic, and it can be bad. It can turn you into a narcissist. It can make you prideful and boastful and all those things. And he only talked about the negative side, the bad side. And at the
but is
end of the
that
sermon,
oh my gosh. I hate that. Keep going. I'm sorry. And
yeah,
I'm
I
having a
know.
little preemptive and I preempted in the story. It's gonna turn around. Keep going. Sorry.
Okay, okay. Well, he at the end of the sermon, he actually said, he's praying. He's like, you need to pray to God to stop loving yourself. And it took everything I had to not scream no.
That's
And
because you're a
so
narcissist and that's probably appropriate for you.
spot it, you got it. And so anyway, so I was talking to my mom afterwards, and she's like, I would love for you to get into a conversation with him. But the really, really interesting thing that happened, one of my best friends messaged me that day, and she said, hey, Jason at our church did a talk on self-love today, and you would love it. And so I'm driving home from Abilene, and I listened to it, and he was talking about all the good parts of self-love and how God calls us. It literally says, love God and others as yourself. So there is a healthy way to do it. And so in one day, within a few hours, I heard a pastor say no, and I heard a pastor say yes. And then I'm like, oh, that's why people are confused. That's why
Mm,
people are confused.
right. And I think like there's a lot of times very driven and I don't love the word narcissist. I think it's used way too loosely,
Agreed.
right?
Yeah.
And at the same time, they tend to be the folks that get into position with the loudest voice.
Amen.
I don't know how I'm trying to tread lightly. I'd like some props for trying to tread lightly right now.
You're doing a really
So
good job.
thank you, thank you. And so I think like a lot of times when they're sharing this and they're going through their enlightenment, it doesn't apply to 99.7% of the population. I did make up that
Agreed.
statistic.
Yeah. Most
So in that,
statistics are made up, so it's fair.
but we get the point. So
Yeah.
maybe that was his journey that that first pastor was going through,
It
right?
could
So he was sharing
100%.
his
And what he said was true. It was true. But if you give only one side, would give the negative without the, because all the things he said about how it can be bad are true. But if you don't give the good with the bad, because if the I'm
the
just a
yin and the yang. Yeah.
yeah, and and I am a Christian and I love God, and I do struggle with the church a lot, which just because of teachings and just some things, and
What
it is a
denomination? Just curious.
I'm
Church of God?
non-denominational, just a
Okay.
Christian. Just a Christian. Just I
Well,
love
there's some
and actually
some
I don't
missionaries
know.
that are also. Oh, you said Abilene, and I was like,
Oh yeah.
oh, they have
Oh yeah.
their Church of Christ
Yeah.
University over there, and that's
Yeah.
really. So I grew up
Yeah.
Methodist.
Okay.
I had
Yeah.
an ex who was Church of Christ, which is a little bit. It's
Oh, I've done Church of Christ. I was married into the Church of Christ at one point, and the church I went to was actually really very balanced for a Church of Christ, and there were some really
a
really
lot
good
of it.
people there. But some of like it's just very interesting. But my problem's not with Jesus. My problem's with the people misconstruing things and saying, and I actually had a shirt created that said, "That's not what I said, Jesus," because
Oh, that's fantastic. Or maybe that's what I said, but that's not what I meant. It's taken out
that's
of context.
exactly
Can you
yes
imagine
that
being? There's nothing worse than being misunderstood,
uh,
right? Can you like? There's
misrepresented. Yes,
misunderstood, misrepresented, and considering if you go back and we're reading the Bible or researching the Bible, you can have one section and it has a gazillion interpretations. So I'm just like, oh
one
Jesus, how
one
would you
of
feel about this?
yeah, one of my favorite Christian artists. He died a long time ago. His name was Rich Mullins, and I know he died 28 years ago because my son's 28, and he died the year my son was born. And he spoke into my life more than most pastors ever could or would. And one of his quotes that he's known for is saying that the Bible is just proof that we're all guessing, but only God knows the truth. Like, God knows the truth. Like, we're just guessing, right?
I
And
love
so,
that.
yeah. And he had a way of connecting people to God just in his own humanity. Rich did, of being willing to question and say, I don't know if I have this right, but I believe I know the heart of God, and what he said was to love. And if we can love, we can do everything else well.
And going back to, we cannot give from an empty shell,
Cannot.
right? So
100%.
first love yourself, and not just a little, not like, oh, I love myself, I show myself a little love. Now I can give fully. We have to love
It's
fully till we're
continuous. It's
overfull.
continuous. And it's
Yes, until we're
continuous.
overfull. Yes, overfilled with love. Now we're giving from the overfull, which was going to go out anyways, right? We're
Right.
spilling over. We're spilling over. It's funny because since I've been out here, I have some neighbors. A lot of them are full timers as well in this community, and they laugh at me because I'm like, I'm so happy. I love it here. I'm so happy. It's kind of like, okay,
It's very freeing. We've been in our RV for 2.5 years, and absolutely, we decided when we moved down here that if we didn't like it, we would just get another place. Right? It wouldn't be a big thing, but we absolutely love it. And
well, that's
we
what
do have a store.
happened.
We have a storage. We have a storage room with some things that we didn't want to get rid of because we may end up with a house at some point. Um, but for the most part, we function with whatever we have here. We have a space with a yard. We have a fenced off yard for our dog because we're here full time. The trees are beautiful. We're right by the San Gabriel River in Georgetown, and it's beautiful here. And I wouldn't want to be
Yeah,
anywhere else.
and there's that community, right?
Yes.
Over there. It's kind of like what I was finding is that I had lost that sense of community in our neighborhood. When our kids were younger and outside all the time, that was good. But as they grew up and everybody started doing their own thing, the garage was in the back.
Yeah.
So we weren't
Uh,
like, even though I had furniture out front, we weren't really seeing people or getting to know people. And like, I know the value of a community, right? It's just, I have a 14-year-old. It's important. And not just any random community, but a solid community. of people with joy in their
So
hearts and
is your 14-year-old traveling with you?
yeah. I left her out. I left her over there. She'll be
Yeah.
fine. No, it's my husband, her, and two very large dogs. And people
Oh,
are like,
wow.
"Oh, wow," in that little space. And I was like, "Well, usually we're traveling with my in-laws and my older son and my other older son with his girlfriend. So we feel like we have a lot of space right now because there's only three of us versus eight of
Oh,
us."
yeah. Wow, that's a lot. Yeah. Yeah, you're going to love it. You're absolutely going to love it. We can't wait till when we get to a place where we can start traveling too. But right now I'm just happy to be in this place and to go from where I was of living a life of self-hate in a constant loop of making one choice that did not serve me well over and over again to now to have created a life I live, because I am happily remarried. We're coming up on our second wedding anniversary in just about a month, and so we actually got married in the Frio River in South Texas, and
Oh,
not at the river, but in the river. We got married in the water.
I
It was
love
amazing.
that. I love that.
Yeah,
The Frio River is the one. It goes to the state park that has the dance hall, right? And
Garner.
where everybody, the
Yes,
ropes, garden, where
yeah,
everybody jumps off
yeah.
those swings. We love that. My
So,
kids love it. They'll swing. They'll swing
uh,
all day, all day.
let me tell you about Garner State Park. So when we first started dating, we went there, and the first time I floated the river ever, and I knew that if I did, he loves this. If I didn't love it, we weren't gonna make it. And so it was. I fell in love completely with him in that river. But at Garner State Park, we got out there for the dance, and for the first dance, nobody else was dancing. It was just he and I, and it was really sweet. And after we were done, they all clapped, and I thought, "Oh, that's so sweet." And then I realized they clapped after every song. It wasn't us. It wasn't
We're
us.
just gonna take it. It was you. You add to the experience. Because I've been there, and there's something lovely about people dancing, and you watch. It's like a wedding. You know, you watch them,
It's
and
just
it
beautiful.
it's where you guys. It's that love of you have that moment of yourselves, and you love, and that's you overflow into the audience. So
Yeah.
no buts on
And
that because I have been a spectator, and I
I
love
love
that, and
seeing
it's that.
I love seeing the kids, the teenagers. And then the boy would go up. I was a people watching the boy go up and ask the girl, because they're there. It's summertime. They're doing their summer dance, and these are memories that they'll talk about forever, right? And it was just
I love
beautiful
that Garner
watching
still
that.
has this tradition. Yes, can you imagine? It's been going on for what 100 years. I Another number that I'm just throwing out there. So
Yeah, it's been
fact check me.
forever.
Watching people have those experiences, and that overflows into me. Like it really
Yep,
does. So
yep,
keep dancing.
for
So
sure.
what other
Yeah, we
lessons
do.
do you have?
I think the most important thing I could say would be that if you look at your life now and you are not living a life you love, you get to choose. You get to change that, and you get to make a choice. And you only one choice at a time is all you have to do. And I used to say make the next right choice, but I had a coach kind of lovingly help me reframe that. And she said, "What if it was just the next choice that serves you well?" So if you look at your life and you're just not living the life you love, instead of trying to burn it all down and say, just pick one thing, one choice that would help you get closer to creating that life you love. And do that ongoing. And then the next day, pick one thing. What do you need today to help you create the life you love? And continue doing that. And before you know it, it's 10 years in, you're getting married in a river and living the life you never thought you could. But you can.
Oh, that's absolutely beautiful, Sam. I love that you said that because sometimes when you look into making the next right choice, that's a lot of pressure. We don't know if it's right or not like, until the consequence hits, right? But those micro decisions along the way that'll
Yep.
serve you well. And a
Yep,
lot of
for
times, just
sure.
making that choice to make a move just gets the momentum going, so that you're out of
Just to
your
make a
stuff.
decision. Yep. Just to make a decision to say, I'm going to do something different. And for me,
I love
that day
that.
was March 8th of 2015. I wrote in my journal, I'm drawing a line in the sand. I'm not going to live like this anymore. This is not going to continue. And I was able to get out of the marriage in July. And yeah, it's amazing. Just make the
Oh,
decision that you're going to do something and then start.
such a beautiful lesson. And once we get those as the foundation, I do see how it will just keep growing and growing and growing.
Hmm.
My hope, I have a 14-year-old. So, what would you say if you were to give me some advice to raise a daughter who will continue to love herself, right? And give
The
from her
best thing
overflow.
the best thing you can do is show her what true, real, healthy self-love looks like by doing it yourself. She will model what you do more than what you say. And I've got a 33-year-old and a 28-year-old, and I understand they do what I do, not what I say.
And there is actually real statistics that back that up, and I can give them to you, some random numbers if you'd like. If somebody
It's
really did
almost,
a
we're just
study
going to
on
say 100%. We're going to say it's almost 100%.
it's almost
So,
100%.
can I
But
get, let me give you a tiny example. My daughter's 33. I have two grandsons. And unfortunately, she followed in my path because she grew up in the chaos. And her kids are 5.5 years apart. Guess how much older she is from her brother? 5.5 years.
oh
And
wow.
two different dads. She did the
Oh,
same thing I did. And so I've had to, like, we've made amends. She's teaching me so much about boundaries and living a life. And so she gets to see me in a healthy light now. And I don't have very many regrets in life, but if I could have not taken my kids through all the crap that I went through, I would re- remove that in a heartbeat. But I've had that conversation with them, and they've both told me what happened made us stronger. So they don't hold
oh,
me accountable. They know that I did the best I could with what I had, but mercy, watching your kids go through the same stuff you did is hard. So if you want the best advice, truly, model what you want to see because that's what they'll do.
I love that. That's great advice. And I love that they have their power now. They don't have
Hmm.
they're not victims, they have their power. And what a beautiful healing journey they must have gone on.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate
Sure.
you. Is there
Thank you.
how can folks reach you and get a hold of you and
Yeah.
learn more from you?
Yeah. Yeah. So I have a YouTube channel. If they just type in my name, Sam Morrison Wilson, it'll pop up. Or my online community group is Safe Heart Connections. They can do that on YouTube as well. Just type in Safe Heart Connections and it'll pop up on YouTube as well. I do go live on Tuesdays at 2 every week. I have a paid community where if somebody's ready to go through a self-love makeover, and they can get to all that stuff through.
Well, I appreciate you, Sam. Thank you so much for today. Thank you for your time. And I
Thank you.
hope we stay in touch and I hope
We will.
we see each other on the road.
I would love that. Love that. You get down to Georgetown sometime, let me know.